So, Matt Walsh, who is some sort of producer B team on the Daily Wire, I'm not sure exactly his position, thinks the leftist gender ideology is nonsense. Given that it's science based and sociology based, that's pretty funny, pretty rich coming from him. So let's see what his argument is here. Matt, take it away.
Today, for our daily cancellation, we're going to be canceling everybody on the left celebrating the Kamala Harris VP pick because they can't celebrate it. It doesn't make sense for them to celebrate it.
What? What does that have to do with leftist gender ideology? Unless we're talking about liberal identity politics. And no one that I know of to the left of who? To the left of Biden was celebrating Kamala Harris's selection. I mean, we all kind of expected it, but we were hoping we'd get someone else. And yeah, just like how Biden was picked in '08 to appeal to passively racist liberals, Kamala was picked in 2020 to appeal to passively racist liberals. So it kind of makes sense.
But you see, this is a common problem. One of the most prominent characteristics of leftists in modern America is their complete inability or unwillingness to apply their principles consistently, especially in their personal lives. Now, you see stark illustration.
God, I hate this fucking... This is one of the major issues I have with particularly conservatives, is this: anyone to the left of hunting poor people for sport is a leftist, is a Marxist, is a socialist, when Kamala Harris is not. For one thing, I mean, whatever other politics she might have, however progressive she might be, she's a capitalist. She is a proponent and supporter of capitalism. She's also a liberal. And that comes with a whole host of sometimes contradictory beliefs, but her liberalism expresses itself in love for markets and her belief that we just need to crack down on crime and da-da-da-da-da. So she is not a leftist, and no leftists are happy with Kamala Harris's... I don't want to say that no leftists support her, because I support the Biden-Harris ticket. I will vote for them. I will encourage other people to vote for them, because I believe that they will do good things for our society. Not that the Biden-Harris administration will pass good laws or good executive orders, but they will demonstrate the failure of Democrats and liberalism, so we can radicalize more people and hopefully get more people on board with a more progressive, true leftist ticket in 2024. But no leftist is happy with Kamala Harris. So let's see how he thinks that this makes us hypocritical, that anyone to his left is happy that Kamala Harris was chosen.
Of this problem provided, for example, by the climate alarmist who warns of an impending apocalypse but still maintains a 401k, the pro-abortion zealot who congratulates a pregnant woman despite believing her to be infested by a subhuman parasite. Of course,
you can... Christ. This is where the lack of empathy comes in. Because believing that there's a climate catastrophe and still having a 401k is not necessarily hypocritical. Because you could believe we're approaching a climate catastrophe and believe that we will somehow weather it or solve it such that your 401k is safe. That's not hypocritical in the slightest. And congratulating someone on their child, again, I don't want to have kids. I almost certainly will never have children. I'm perfectly fine being the cool uncle to my sister's kids, and to a lesser extent, my best friend's kids. I'm totally cool with that. And I don't think that people who are pregnant should get as much special treatment as they do. I recognize that there's some special treatments that they should receive due to the limitations of their the effects pregnancy has in their body, whatever. I mean, I am a 100% supporter of things like pregnancy leave, maternity and paternity leave, what have you. But I would still congratulate someone, and I did congratulate my sister when she came up pregnant, because I knew that she wanted it and she was happy for it. I can still view a child as a parasite. I'm not some, lover of children like that, but there's a big difference between believing that that having a child is something you don't want to do, and recognizing, having empathy for other people who do want children. And while I might talk about parasites when I'm with other people who understand my sense of humor or also don't want children, that doesn't mean that I would necessarily do it around people who are parents or who want to have children. It's called code switching. Welcome back, Vaginator. There are a potentially infinite number of genders. It all depends on how people wish to identify.
Of course, there are also the well-worn examples of the socialist tweeting about the pitfalls of capitalism on his iPhone, the progressive...
You participate in society, yet you critique society, yet you participate in it. Curious. I am very smart.
Politician preaching about the evils of guns while flanked by a squadron of armed security. So all of that. It seems that, if not for cognitive dissonance, many on the left would not have any cognition.
Wait, what was that?
The progressive politician preaching about the evils of guns while flanked by a squadron of armed security. So all of that. It seems that, if not...
That's not hypocritical. They're preaching about the evils of guns, which I disagree with, but they have protection from people with guns. Yeah, that's not hypocritical. There's this idea on the right, and even on the liberal left, the liberal right, I should say, that if you critique something like a system or an object or what have you, then you don't... then you are hypocritical for participating in that system, for using that, whatever that is. You critique capitalism, yet you participate in it. Well, we live in a capitalist system. If there was an actual socialist system I could live in easily, I would, but there isn't. And besides, I'm more interested in transitioning this nation and the world into a socialist system than going to some isolated commune and living as a socialist and having no impact on the rest of the world. That's the real reason why they make this argument. They want everyone who wants to improve the world to build these isolated communes where they practice what they preach but have no impact on the outside world. This is a big issue with libertarians around the turn of the century. Actual left libertarians. That they thought that they could basically lead by example and create anarchist communes which lived by anarchist principles, and that people would see how fun and free they were and flock to join them, ignoring the fact that they actually lacked a number of creature comforts because they weren't available, because they didn't have the capability to create them. No, they were free in many other ways. It's not like these were starving hellholes. They were thriving, surviving communes. but they didn't have electricity, they didn't have radio or movies or what have you, or whatever. They had books, but they, like I said, they didn't have electricity, so it was all candlelight and whatnot. So this idea of, well, if that's what you believe, why don't you go live that way? Well, I'd like to, but I'd prefer to build this in the wider society so that everyone lives this way, because I truly believe this is a better way to live. And meanwhile, while I'm agitating and advocating for this change, I'm going to live in the society I was born in. Male and female are sex terms, not gender, Wagner. That's the main problem. Big of you to decide that all the people in capitalist society happily, and that you should try to change their way of life. Good thing I'm not trying to change life without their consent. I am trying to teach people that the world can be better and get them to realize that we need to change the world on its own. And that ignores the fact that I live in a capitalist society without my consent. So, what about the millions of other socialists and anarchists like myself who live in a capitalist society right now? That's true. But I can educate people so they realize why they should want socialism.
Not for cognitive dissonance, many on the left would not have any cognition at all.
Ooh, burn, sick burn.
Nowhere is this dynamic more obvious and glaring than in the arena of gender. Leftist gender ideology contradicts itself in so many places that you feel yourself nearly going insane just trying to
Please show one example of a contradiction.
Make sense of all of it, and I think that's by design, by the way.
And yeah, that's a good point, Dodge. Most people don't support socialism because they have a very skewed and inaccurate view of what socialism is. When they think of socialism, they think of gulags and bread lines and the state deciding where you're going to work and what you're going to get paid for it. Whereas actual socialism is the workers deciding where they're going to work and how that is going to be distributed, how the benefits of that labor are going to be distributed, such that we no longer have farms producing milk and potatoes and corn that gets destroyed because they don't have someplace to sell it. It gets distributed out to people who need food. We no longer have medicine that is only available if you have the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for it. Does the cost and waste of these government programs will catch up to us? I'm sorry, I've rarely seen something so stupid, because the vast majority of our debt is from military spending. Good thing I'm not advocating for greater government programs. I'm advocating for democratic control of the economy and decommodifying things like food and housing. Yeah, we could solve most of our budgetary issues by cutting our budget, by cutting the military by like 20 or 30%, still have the largest military in the world by orders of magnitude, and solve most of our budgetary shortfalls. So I'm going to make a decision. That is why we would have what is known as liquid democracy, which is a type of democracy similar to representative democracy, except that the representative is not a permanent representative. On certain things, yes, we would need to have regular votes, but for most things, you can delegate or confederate your vote to certain people. And also, I think you're underestimating how many things would need to be decided in a business, particularly if we eliminate the commodity form, which is the current mode of capitalist production, where instead of where everything is made, you're constantly producing things because you want to be able to stock the shelves, instead of just producing things that are needed, and the number that is needed may be a little extra for emergencies or shortfall. Like right now we have factories producing all sorts of things, tanks, cars, I'm talking water tanks, not military tanks, bottles, and farms producing tons and tons and tons and tons of food. But the food that doesn't get sold gets destroyed, and even the food that gets sold to distributors, like your local Hy-Vee or Piggly Wiggly or whatever, if it's not sold, some of it gets donated to food banks, but a lot of it gets destroyed, gets thrown out, made inedible. Whereas if we didn't have the commodity form, we would produce probably about the same amount of food, but it would be distributed more fairly, more equitably, so that everyone had enough to eat, and it wouldn't get destroyed because they didn't have some place to sell it. That's not true at all. The vast majority of innovations come from actually government funding. And there is a little bit of truth to that. There's a little bit of truth that the overproduction of commodities can allow people to have the resources to create something. But this is a common capitalist argument that is not true. Good thing there's never been a communist country. Yeah. They've all been authoritarian, totalitarian states. I mean, Yugoslavia under Tito had a pretty socialist economy, which was kind of part of the issue because it had so much democracy and freedom that the lack of democracy in the rest of the government kind of clashed with it. But worker co-ops are actually pretty good. I never said it's never been tried, but there's never been a communist country. Like, by definition. This isn't even like an opinion. Communism is a stateless, moneyless, classless society. The USSR had a state, a very powerful state, and had classes and had money, so it was not communist. Same with China. Same with Cuba. Same with any other place you might point to. Let's go back 300 years, Wagenator. Yeah, excellent example, Dodge, but on a more systemic level, it was stupid for the U.S. to adopt laissez-faire capitalism when mercantile capitalism worked fine, and there was no evidence that laissez-faire capitalism would be better. It's stupid. It's never worked. Why would you try it? This is a stupid argument for dumb people. Anyway, let's get back to Matt Walsh here. He seems to be smarter than you, Wagenator. Please explain why that is a terrible analogy.
It's not one coherent theory, but a chaotic web of declarations and doctrines, each asserting itself without any apparent awareness of the others. One example at random. We're told that sexual orientation is immutable, cannot be changed, right? We're also told that gender is fluid and can easily.
So when we say that sexual orientation is immutable and can't be changed, that means that you can't force someone to change their sexual preference. So you can't take someone who likes dick and force them to like vagina. Like, I mean, maybe you can, but it's not a natural change. It's functionally a brainwashing. Whereas an individual's preferences can change and evolve over time, especially as they gain more experiences. They can learn what they like and don't like, and what they thought they liked is different from what they end up in fact liking. So it's a little bit of a misnomer to call it immutable. What we're saying is that you can't force a change, like with conversion therapy, but it can shift over time naturally as the person gains more experiences. But gender definitely is a spectrum. And it's mostly bimodal. There are two major poles because of our society, but that changes with society. Thanks, Dodge.
Be changed. These two things cannot be true at the same time. If a gay man decides to identify as a woman, then either we must say that he is no longer gay since he's now a woman attracted to a man, or he is not actually a woman. If he's no longer gay, then sexual orientation decides to identify. We're also told that gender is fluid and can easily be changed.
Yes, because gender is primarily a collection of behaviors and presentations that change definition throughout history. It's changed in living people's lifetimes. It used to be unheard of for women to wear pants, but now we have women who hate wearing skirts, like who always wear pants, and that's even ignoring the acceptable modes of dress people have. So, yeah, you're just wrong here, Walsh. Gender can change. You can change your gender. If you feel like, there are people who feel more masculine or more feminine day to day, and it's only because we have these societally accepted definitions that they have to define those changes. In a gender-abolished society where we don't have these assigned genders with their accepted gender roles, then it would be totally acceptable and normal and not worth commenting on to see someone in a dress with a beard and their nails long and painted with long hair and a French braid. That's the only reason that's weird to us in this day and age is because we've so gendered facial hair and long painted nails and certain hairstyles and certain clothing.
Two things cannot be true at the same time. If a gay man decides to identify as a woman, then either we must say that he is no longer gay since he's now a woman attracted to a man, or he is not actually a woman. If he's no longer gay, then sexual orientation can be changed. If he's not actually a woman, then gender is not fluid.
Yes, so this is where we're using different... I already talked about this, Matt. An individual can change their sexual preferences as their body changes, as they have more experiences, what have you. But that doesn't mean that you can force a change on someone. That's why we would say sexual orientation can't be changed by external force. It's really that simple. Also, it bugs me that his, and this is something that I never would have noticed until I started doing this myself, one of his rubber bands is off the hook here. So it bothers me.
See, there are only three options here. Either sexual orientation cannot be changed, and neither can gender, or sexual orientation can be changed, and so can gender, or sexual orientation can be changed, but gender cannot be changed. Any of those are logically possible, though only one is scientifically and factually correct. But the
Yes. I believe it was the middle one, but you're so boring.
options here: either sexual orientation cannot be changed, and neither can gender, or sexual orientation can be changed, and so can gender.
Right, that one. Yeah, that's the one. Although it'd be more accurate to say sexual orientation can change, not can be changed. It's a subtle difference in the language there, because can be changed indicates that it's being acted upon by an outside force, which is not how it works. Outside of like actual brainwashing or conditioning, you can't change someone. You can't change someone's sexual preferences or orientation. But life experiences, being exposed to certain things, learning about different kinks or body shapes or what have you, can change your sexual preferences. And it's rare that someone will go from I only like dick to I only like vagina. I mean, it happens. I know that there are some people I have seen and talked to who, after transitioning, went from, I only like vagina to I only like dick, or vice versa. That can happen, but it's more common that their preferences expand, and they decide that they like both dick and vagina. Some people don't care about their partner's physiology. They only care about their personality or their behavior, their jokes, whatever. They don't care at all about the physiology. They just care about the person. So yeah, and these can change as your experiences change, as you gain more experiences.
Or sexual orientation can be changed, but gender cannot be changed. Any of those are logically possible, though only one is scientifically and factually correct. But the theory that sexual orientation is immutable while gender is fluid is a logical impossibility. Somebody making such a claim might as well defend the inherent roundness of rectangles or the fundamental...
The thing is that I've never heard someone say that sexual orientation was immutable, except for conservatives, from the perspective of forcing a change. Like I've said this 3 times now. A person's preferences can change, but that change cannot be forced upon them.
Dryness of water. It is logically contradictory. It cannot be true. The leftist confusion about gender and about what their own view on the subject is supposed to be has been especially on display ever since Joe Biden, of course, announced Kamala Harris, like we talked about, as his pick for vice president. There are other, funny and hypocritical things about the pick too, of course, such as the fact that Harris will now be working under and subordinate to a man that she tearfully denounced as a racist not even a year ago. But
yeah, we on the left find that kind of funny too. Funny in that, oh God, or what is going on type way. But yeah, that is actually kind of funny. But that's what happens in politics.
The greater point is that the media...
And actually, I just noticed, because I'm a terrible person, it's actually off of 2 hooks.
His ecstatic reaction to a woman VP pick is belied by the rather serious problem that women don't technically exist, according to leftist ideology. According to them, the word woman has no discernible meaning. A woman...
It means anyone who identifies as a woman. It has a definition. It has a solid sociological definition. Anyone who identifies as a woman. Well, what does that mean? It means you identify as a woman. It means you probably use she, her pronouns. It generally means if you ascribe to the binary gender model, that you like having long hair, you may like wearing dresses. or not. As I said, there are many cisgendered women who don't like dresses. My sister is one of those. She went through a phase where she refused to wear dresses. Now she's okay with wearing them to dress up or whatever, but her typical everyday wear is like jeans or scrubs. She's a nurse. Um, if you're a woman, if you identify as a woman, you probably like having your nails painted. Like I said, long painted nails. You are expected to be more submissive, although that's not always the case. Again, I will reference my sister here. You are expected to be more empathetic, more conciliatory, more compromising. In fact, there's a whole host of issues in our society caused by the expectation of women to be more conciliatory and to compromise their own beliefs and their own opinions and subordinate those to the man they're going to marry. And likewise, a man is any person who identifies as a man. Probably uses he, him pronouns, probably has short hair, facial hair, never wears a dress unless it's a kilt, which is different because reasons. And if you're a and if you're a man, you're expected to be more aggressive and assertive. You're supposed to be hairy and smelly and not care what other people think. You're supposed to be stoic, not show emotion. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that go into being a man in our current society, but none of these are connected to biology, physiology. The fact that we consider penis to be a man's organ is a function of our conflation of sex and gender. There are plenty of women out there with penises, my dude. And there are more women than many women you know.
A woman is not necessarily a person with XX chromosomes and female reproductive organs. A woman is not defined by anything physical, nor neurological, nor psychological, nor behavioral. A woman is not defined by anything.
Yes, they are. They're defined by their identity as a woman, which has a number of assumptions based on our society. This is just you being wrong and either lying or not understanding the current literature on the subject. But it's okay. You can learn the difference.
Which is to say that a woman isn't anything in particular. Woman, by the light of the left's philosophy, is an arbitrary concept. It has no substance. It is not objective.
Yep. No, true. Yep. Woman is totally arbitrary. So is man. There are arbitrary distinctions. Some of them are less arbitrary than others, like the assumption that men will be strong because on average men tend to be more physically stronger. Women are more emotional because their body can be, if they have a uterus and functional ovaries and fallopian tubes, to go through menstruation, that can cause their hormones to mess up, so they can get more emotional during those times. So there are some physiological connections to the gender roles, but those are not, those are facets of gender. They are not, like, you can meet certain definitions of woman and still be a woman, even if you don't meet other definitions, such as not having a period. After all, 70-year-old women don't have their period, but no one would call them not a woman unless they don't identify as a woman.
It can mean anything and be anyone. If you think I'm overstating the case here, then just approach any leftist currently extolling the woman vice presidential nominee.
Also notice how he's conflating liberals, which there are a lot of liberals, especially liberal women, who are A-okay with Kamala Harris being the VP pick. Well, yeah, strong black woman in the VP slot. She's just one heart attack away from the White House, the big seat. And leftists who were almost universally disappointed by the pick. And it's typically leftists who hold these gender views. So he's deliberately conflating leftists and liberals. And this is something that conservatives love to do.
And simply ask them what they mean when they say woman. They will not be able to answer the question. They cannot define the word. And I mean literally.
I've defined it like 3 times, so you're just wrong here.
Cannot. Their ideology won't allow it. Now,
also, there's a good chance that most of the liberal women who are happy about Kamala Harris's pick, are going to agree with you that a woman is an adult human female, and talk about how women are God, what's the and agree that women are this set physiological scientific definition, which doesn't actually fit the science or sociology, because they don't understand modern gender theory.
If you do pose this question, the eternal question that I have been posing to leftists for years now, the most likely response will be a deflection, accusing you of being a transphobe or whatever. But, of course, not actually answering the question.
See, he always skips a step here where he asks, what is a woman? Well, a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman. Well, what does that mean? And I go into the explanation I went into. So I could be a woman? Yes. Well, that's not what a woman is. Okay. Is this a woman? And I show a picture of Natalie Wynn. Well, yeah. Okay. She was born a man. Oh, well then, Or you'll get some people who define a woman as anyone with a vagina. Is this a woman? I really hope there's nothing TOS here. There shouldn't be. Is this a woman? This is a person with a vagina. I'll check that out in a minute, Benoit.
You may, however, be presented with some kind of attempt at an answer. So let's go through a couple. Here's a common one, one that I've heard many times. A woman is an adult human female, which, yes, this part is correct. This is the actual answer. You win the prize. Congratulations. Adult human female. That's what a woman is. But then they'll continue. An adult human female, or anyone who identifies as an adult human female.
No, anyone who identifies as a woman. Now, I understand that using the word in the definition is usually bad form, but we're talking about a social construct here.
Now our coherent and correct definition has been thrown into chaos. Because this definition is just another way of saying that a woman is an adult human female or not an adult human female. Woman has no definition if that is the definition. A thing cannot be.
This is why I just dispense with the adult human female part and just say anyone who identifies as a woman, because that includes adult human females. If you're an adult human female, you're a woman. But if you're a trans woman, you're also a woman.
Be what it is and also what it isn't. This is like saying that a tree is a tree or anything that looks like a tree. So a drawing of a tree actually isn't a drawing of a tree because it is the thing that it's a drawing of?
No, you moron. It's... Oh boy.
That makes no sense. A similar problem for people who say trans women are women. Okay, then why do you call them trans? What does the trans part denote? Is there in fact some notable difference between trans women and non-trans women? If so, then the two groups are fundamentally different. But if you...
So it depends on what you mean by a difference between trans women and cis women. Because for the vast majority of things, particularly in a day-to-day societal context, there is no difference between a trans woman and a cis woman. Just like there's no difference between a black woman and a white woman, between a short woman and a tall woman, between an old woman and a young woman. For the vast majority of contexts and situations people are involved in, there's no appreciable difference. But there are situations where we do need to differentiate between trans women and cis women. Not bathrooms, not changing rooms, not anything like that. But we're talking about medical issues. If you are dating and you haven't had bottom surgery, it's probably a good idea to mention that at some point before the clothes come off. If for no other reason than because in like 45 states or something bullshit like that, you can still get off scot-free by claiming, well, we were getting naked, I saw her penis, and I just flipped out and killed her. The trans panic defense is still real, and in many states, it is still a valid defense if you kill someone. So, if only for your safety, mention that probably not when you're alone together. Probably, while you're still at the bar or restaurant or whatever. Just as a matter of safety. So there are certain situations where there needs to be differentiation. But for the vast majority of social situations, the difference between a trans woman and a cis woman is nil. That's why the definition of anyone who identifies as a woman is valid.
You say they are not fundamentally different, then it doesn't make any sense to differentiate them the way that you already do in the way that you refer to them. So none of this makes any sense. You might also be told that words like woman and man are on a spectrum. Okay, then tell me about this spectrum. What is on either side of this spectrum? Define the people who exist on the extreme ends of the woman side and the man side.
That's piss easy. The extreme woman side is a trad wife, a cisgendered woman who believes that who believes in the traditional gender roles of being a homemaker, taking care of the house, greets her man with and she's definitely heterosexual, greets her man at the door with a martini with dinner already on the table, keeps the kids in line, makes sure they're up and ready for school. And at the opposite end of the spectrum, at the man end of the spectrum, is the actually probably at that end of the spectrum is more of the Tim Allen, Man of the Woods, He-Man, survivalist type, who can hunt and fish and trap and da 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 da. But there's so much variation in between. Like women who are called masculine. I hate calling women masculine. It feels gross to me now. But who exhibit more masculine traits, like being more assertive, being physically strong. Maybe they have facial hair. Maybe they don't. I don't care. Women who like to wear pants and flannel shirts and whatever, or just t-shirts or what have you. Or men who like to wear bright pastel colors or what have you. Women who, like I said, are more aggressive. Men who are less assertive, who are more submissive. That's the spectrum. And ignoring that spectrum, saying that you're either a man or a woman, and these are the characters of a man or a woman, causes a lot of identity issues with people who fall somewhere in that spectrum.
If someone is on the spectrum between man and woman, what does that mean? Between what and what? So you can't escape the definition problem by talking about spectrums. If the spectrum takes us from one undefinable thing to another undefinable thing, then it is not a spectrum. It is more like a black hole where all sense and reason and the very laws of science break down into nothing.
So this is someone who's either lying or has never actually had a conversation with someone who he claims is giving these answers. Because, as I've demonstrated, I've been able to answer every single one of his questions without an issue.
Nothingness. So what exactly does a man mean when he says, I identify as a woman? What is a woman? Is a woman in the end just anyone who enjoys feminine things or dresses in a feminine way? Well, that can't be it, because we can't define feminine until we have defined the word woman. The definition of feminine is hinged on the definition of woman.
Not really. Feminine has certain characteristics to it. Again, like I said, submissiveness, conciliatory behavior, compromise, certain modes of dress and hair and nails, and certain expectations of behavior. These are all considered feminine because those are roles we've assigned to the people we identify as women. But none of these are necessarily biological or physiological.
Also, this definition would turn a lot of women into non-women and a lot of non-women into women. Besides, the left has been trying to break down these societal constructs of feminine versus masculine for years now. Surely you can't go from not all women should be expected to be feminine to the only defining characteristic of womanhood is femininity. So what is a woman? They have no answer.
And I'm done. He's lying or has not talked to people he claims he has. I literally answered every single one of his questions. And I'm an idiot on these things. Someone with more formalized training or has read more than I have can probably answer him much better than I have. But I think I answered his questions pretty clearly without resorting to sophistry or tautology. A woman is anyone who identifies as a woman. A man is anyone who identifies as a man. It's a spectrum because there are various distinctions of behavior between those two societally decided poles. It's really as simple as that. It's not nonsensical. It's only nonsensical if you only take half the definition and strawman the rest. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment because it helps me. Subscribe and ring that bell to help you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.